Welcome to the first lesson of Chapter 2, Object-Oriented Swift. You will learn to become lazy in this lesson. In other words, you become smarter and effective when it comes to initializing an object. In fact, in programming, being lazy might be a good thing for your teammates as well as for the user, as long as it's readable and provides effective communication. Bill Gates once said if he were to assign a difficult task, he would find a lazy person because he or she would find an easier way to go about. So, let's become lazy in this lesson. Let's begin. Welcome to Learn Swift Without. Today in this lesson, we're going to talk about convenience init method. So, here's the problem statement. I'm lazy. Can we initialize something quickly? Well, again, I like the word lazy in programming because you want to have the minimum input but produce the maximum output. Okay? So let's create a simple class called human. I like to use, we're going to talk about some theoretical aspect and then get into the practical aspect later. So in order to create an object, you probably have to do something like this. Let's call it Bob human. Let's call it whatever your name. And you have to do something like Bob. But sometimes you're lazy. You're so lazy that you don't even want to type Bob, but you kind of want to do something like Bobby, but like this kind of stuff. But how do you go about that? Okay, well, here comes convenience init method. Alright, convenience init method is nothing more than just a normal init method. However, it initializes the other. So it may not make sense at this point. So convenience method initializes designated init method. What is designated init method? Designated init method is something that is not convenient init method. So what is how do you make a convenience init method? So the only thing you have to do is put the word convenience and then just saying the rest is the same, exactly the same. And then here's the thing, convenience init method initializes the designated init method. So that means you want to run this block of code, you want to execute this method in order to initialize this name property. So how do you have this access to this init method within convenience init? The only thing you have to do is use the word self and then init, and you already have it. So let's call Bob the developer. Okay, right there. So now here's the magic. Let's take a look at the real magic. Let's call it Rob. So now we have two choices for you to initialize it. The first one is name string, which comes from the designated init method. This one on top here, and the second one comes from the first one comes from the convenience init method. You have two choices available. Okay, so now if you do this, what's happening is you're executing this designated init method. So you're entering Bob the developer to here, and the self.name becomes Bob the developer. So here we go. So now you have this beautiful code. Let's call it Bobby equals human. Now here we go. Bobby contains this beautiful name called Bob the developer. Okay. So that is a theoretical aspect why we use convenience init method. Again, it is used to initialize the designated init method. Okay. Designated method is something that is not convenient, so it's just normal init method. Okay, so let's get into some real life situation, practical problems that I use when it comes to iOS development. I always used. Okay, so let's find out. So I like to use UI color. When it comes to UI color, so by the way, you need to have at least 3 months of experience in iOS development for you to enjoy this course. So I kind of assume that you already have 3 months of experience. Okay, so in order to create a color in iOS development, you probably have to do something like this, right? UI color, but you have to import UI kit, which is a bunch of functions and methods and classes created by Apple engineers for us to use it, right? So you have a UI color is just a class, I believe. If you go to here, this is just a class UI color that confirms to couple protocol. We'll learn about more later. Then in order to make a color, you have to do something like this. Right now, color literal red and then just green and blue and alpha. So this is just a designated init method. So if you click on it, jump to definition, right? It contains a couple public init method. Well, if you don't know what public means, we're gonna find out in later chapters about in access control. So they have a bunch of init method. There are many there are many designated init methods. You can have more than one. You can choose them as long as you initialize a property that is not defined. So of course this is hidden. The implementation is hidden because UIKit is not open source and they don't want to show you everything here. So I'm just tell you that hey, things exist here, so use them as if you want to. Okay, so this is one of the designated method to make UI color, but for me, I don't like the word color little red. It's too long, and I don't make it short. So how do you go about that? Well, here comes convenience init method. We're gonna create our custom convenience init method. What it does is you're going to initialize this designated method. So how do you make a custom initialize method? Well, as you know, in order to add something to classes structured enums, we use extension right there. Here we go. And the only thing you have to do is UI color, right? And then we're gonna use the word convenience init and right there. But of course, you want to enter something. Let's say you just enter R. Let's say float. You can use double, right? Float and double are pretty much the same. Float, and we have black. Blue. So you're gonna enter RGB, okay? So instead of calling color little red, green, and blue, okay? But here's the thing: you have to initialize the designated init method as we mentioned here, okay? So let's try to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use this right there, self.init, and here you're gonna, instead of calling, you're gonna enter the value you've entered. It's 255, by the way. I think I made a mistake. Right there. It doesn't matter. You can enter any number from 0 to 1. Okay, so this G could be G, blue could be B divided by 25, and alpha is always 1. Okay, I want it that way. So here we go. So now you have this magical ability. Let's try to create a color. Let's call it my favorite color. Okay, UI color. Now, here we go. Boom. Not only you have this designated init method, a couple, as I've seen before. It contains this amazing your own custom collection, custom convenience method right here for you to use it. Okay, so you can enter 80, 85, and 85 and 255. Here we go. So there we go, and you have this beautiful color. You have to create a constant. Let my favorite color, and here we go on the right side. Come on. Come on, next go. Right there. That's it. That's it. That's how you make, that's why we use convenience init method. Let's go back to the problem statement. I'm lazy. Can we initialize quickly? So you're being lazy. You don't want to type everything here. You're being lazy. The only thing you have to enter is RGB. How beautiful is that? Okay. So let's talk about a couple of application. And of course, I'm talking a higher level perspective. The reason I just can't cover entire examples, right? It's useful for quick initialization for open source project. Let's say you are making an open source project, you're the owner, and you want your teammates to use an open source project, and you don't necessarily want them to have a bunch of long contains parameters. What you can do is you can provide just custom convenience init method for them to use it. Okay, so they don't have to type something like color little red, green, blue, alpha. It just makes everything easier for them to use it. So probably the only thing you have to do is probably like class and then just randomly like that, my class, something like that. And you can do that by providing a convenience init method which contains that default properties. Okay, so if you are making an open source project, definitely I recommend you guys to use convenience method to make other people's life easier, and also custom convenience like UIKit. That's what we did here with UI color. As long as you can identify the designated init method in UIKit or any other people's project, you have the ability to extend it and then use the word convenience init method for the sake of your gray hair, right? You don't want to waste your time. You want to be lazy and get the job done without going through typing all this not nonsense, but just too long. Okay, and yeah, I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. You don't have to understand how everything works. Sorry, how to apply to every other situation. The only thing you have to understand is why we use convenience init method. As long as you understand the why, how becomes much easier. Okay, so just use it for your own sake. All right, see you guys later in the next lesson. See you, bye bye. Boom. In this lesson, you've learned how to become lazy and effective at the same time. Again, imagine you are the owner of a library for your teammates. No one has to use that bloated designated init method. You can provide a simple convenience init for them. It's a win-win situation for both of us, and it makes our lives easier. Just like the Apple engineers, they have provided us with amazing convenience init methods to create UI color object. Again, it's a win-win situation. In the next lesson, let's learn how to fail initializations. See you in the next lesson.